Well, today is Wednesday, March 29th, and the end of the fence saga has come to a close. Today in court, the defendant and the accuser, the state of Indianapolis, came together and finally came to an agreement regarding the fence that exists at, despite what the picture might say, this is not 908 rural. This is, as we all know, 911 North rural. They've come together and they've come to an agreement, and the entire fence saga is over. This, in part, due to the fact that the fence was cut down to the proper size as per the owner's desires, and the city is now satisfied. Well, what has happened to the $2,500 in fines that was supposed to be heaped upon the property? Well, it seems the defendant, the owner of 911 North Rural, is quite the legal genius. And in making their agreement, was able to reduce those fines down to, what did it go down to? I think it's down to $243, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that is quite the legal genius. It would take a legal guru to negotiate with the city and get those heaping fines that was up well over $2,000 to get the city to negotiate down to $243. Only a legal genius, a legal scholar, one who is well versed and knows the law could accomplish this feat. And it was done by the owner of 911 North Rural. I tell you, I must commend the owner on their legal savvy and legal skills in handling this matter. There was a couple of phone calls, it was a Zoom call or two, a couple of checks written, and there you go. It's done. It's done. So, what am I trying to say here? What am I trying to say here without actually saying? Well, this is a picture of a fence. What does this have to do with anything? Absolutely nothing. It's just a picture I pulled off the internet. But this fence represents so much in the lives of many people. A fence provides security. A fence provides privacy. A fence provides a place where you can go and feel relaxed and, just kind of retreat from the prying eyes of the world. See, a fence was built on 911 North Rural. A fence did not exist on that property prior to its current occupants moving in. This fence was built. It is not part of the plans of that house. Well, in order to tell that story, let's go back a little bit. I believe it was in 2014 where one true Freeman and his live-in girlfriend had some trouble with their home on Bevel Avenue. It seems true Freeman believed that he didn't have to pay the city taxes because, he's a legal genius, he's a legal guru. The house was in Donna's name. He advised her not to pay these taxes, and he used a closed checking account, meaning a checking account that had been closed out by the bank. It is no longer in use, no good, but they still had checks for. He writes a check sends it to the city as payment for whatever mortgages or taxes and stuff that they own. And he encouraged Donna not to pay anything because it had already been paid through this invalid, closed, bounced checking account. So the city, saying that this checking account is closed and the check has bounced, decided to send invoices to the home, reminding them, hey, your check bounced, you still owe us X amount of dollars. Well, in his infinite wisdom, the legal guru, True Freeman, decided that he was going to get around this by changing ownership of the home. For $2 in silver coins, $2 in silver coins, okay? Because what he calls Federal Reserve notes is not legal tender. Dollar bills, it's not legal tender. The only legal tender is gold and silver, the old standard, according to Mr. Legal Scholar True Freeman. So he bought the Bevel home from Donna for 2 silver coins, $2 in silver coins. She takes the deed, signs his name on it, passes it over to him. He takes that deed, goes down to the county clerk's office and files this deed with a whatchamacallit stamp on it, with a notary stamp on it. Files it into the public record. Now, this isn't filed properly. It's just a document that's on file, but it doesn't necessarily say, or it doesn't convey to the city that the home has been purchased or sold. It was an improper sale. So the city continues to send notices to the owner, Donna, who passes it off to Tyra, and Tyra says, well, it's not in my name, so we can ignore it. Fast forward, the city takes the house in a tax sale. So Mr. True Freeman has to find a new place to live. The backup home, which is basically a home that 2 men were shot in. He was aware of this and hadn't been rented in years. He contacted the owner and made an agreement that they would move in and the rent would be something like $180 a month or something like that. Something like that. I don't remember exactly. Something like $180. They were looking for a fixer-upper, and this was definitely a home that needed some fixing. The pipes had burst, it had no insulation, the inside was wrecked, it had no bathroom. It was a nightmare. And for $180, that was, that was a steal. It was a steal. You just got to do a whole lot of work to make it livable. So he moves in, he does this. The contract was that they would pay $180 rent for something like 10 or 15 years, at the end of which time they would be offered the chance to purchase the home. But the legal scholar, Mr. Oowwee True Freeman, was unable to maintain even the meager $180 a month and defaulted on that contract. So when he stopped paying the $180 a month rent, the owner of the home stopped paying the property taxes. Now, if you take $180 and you times that by 12, it works out to be almost the same amount of money as the property tax every year. It's pretty much the same amount of money. Actually, it would put them short about $60 every year that that they were supposed to pay on the property taxes. In essence, the property tax is $60 less than he would have paid if he did the $180 a month rent. But being that the current owner lived in the Philippines, it made more sense to him at the time. Oh, and I've kind of forgot. The owner said that he did evict True Freeman from the house for non-payment. But True Freeman broke in his own words, in the owner's own words. True Freeman broke in, back into the house. So fine. He does the whole thing where he doesn't pay the taxes anymore because True Freeman's not paying rent anymore. And paying the taxes works out to be about $60 less than paying the rent. Now, this works for the owner in one way. He's not getting the rent, but if he was getting the rent, he would still have to pay the property taxes. So essentially, he would be taking the rent and moving the rent over into the property taxes and netting himself in the process an extra $60 a year. So instead of getting that $60 a year, what Mr. Wright did was cut the middleman out and just make it so that True Freeman directly pays the property tax. And, you know, with check transfers and all that stuff, the $60 would get lost up in that anyway. So it just kind of made sense to him to go this way. He's still getting the money, but True Freeman lost all interest in the house. He would never be able to be given the opportunity to purchase the place in 10 years. So when you hear him say that he's not been given the deed, that's what he's talking about. It was supposed to be 10 years of paying the rent and then an opportunity to actually purchase the deed. But he defaulted on that by not paying rent, so he is not getting a deed. He must continue to pay the property taxes, or he can go ahead and start paying rent again. If he does neither, the house goes into default, the city sells it, and the owner himself said that he will go and he will just purchase it from tax sale and then move the current occupants out. So that explains the entire rent saga. Now, why do we say he's squatting and not renting? Well, a renter pays rent. He's not paying rent. He has refused to pay rent. He is paying the property taxes. What squatters do is they move into a property, they modify the property in some tangible way, like put up a fence, do some home improvements, start getting mail there, and they pay the property taxes for 10 years. And usually the courts will give them possession of the home, assuming there is no owner with interest in the home. But here's the problem that Mr. Legal Guru didn't think about. There is an owner with interest in the home still. And this person keeps popping up every once in a while just to remind the city that they are there and they still have a vested interest in this place. So Mr. True Freeman, even if he goes to court, will never get adverse possession of this place because the owner is still there on paper and the owner still has a vested interest in this home. Which brings us once again back to the fence saga. An agreement was reached, as I said, for $243. All the other fines have been thrown away. The owner has paid these fines, not the occupant. For our next slide, I have this here. This is a message from Cobain that says, Rizzo, I thought the property was sold to his daughter. To Cobain, I said, I have no proof of that. It's in Wayne's name on paper. There was some question a few years back that the property was sold to someone named Candy Wright, which would be the daughter of Wayne Wright. I had been looking for months and I could not find any sort of transaction in the public record. The deed, as far as I could see, is still, or was still, in the name of the original owner, Wayne Wright, or the Fred Bowl Fund, which is his trust. Well, things have changed just a little bit. If you look here, as of this last court case, that entire deal that I said that the owner, the legal scholar, the legal guru and legal genius and owner of 911 North Rural and controller of the Fred Bowl Fund, the trust that owns said home, signed a document in the court when they paid the $243 fine, rectifying the entire fence saga and depositing their check for $243. They signed the document. If my eyes are not deceiving me, Brandy with a Y, last name Wright. So there you have it. The owner, whereas it was once Mr. Wainwright, is now passed down to his daughter, Mrs. Brandy Wright. And Brandy, I think Brandy will have some very interesting words for Mr. True Freeman, the current occupant. Because, as I said before, this home did not originally have a fence. This home was built by the occupant who was thrown out and broke back in and now squats, A1 True Freeman. This fence was built by him. These fines were incurred by him. However, the fines were paid by her. So what you have is a tenant who refuses to pay rent, but yes, is paying the taxes, and is still managing to incur fines upon the owner. If I were the owner, I would walk into that home with a demolition crew, tear down that fence, and dare somebody to say something about it. But luckily for Mr. True Freeman, I am not the owner. So, that solves the mystery of who owns 911 North Rural. The fines were not coming in the name of one True Freeman or a live-in girlfriend. The fines were coming in under the name Fred Bowl or current occupant. So whereas Mr. True Freeman says that ownership of the home can be proven via YouTube video because he has a YouTube video on a channel that he does not have access to, but can show you a car that was in the home at some point in time, and he says that he had that car at one point. He claims that a YouTube video with timestamps and dates proves ownership over an actual deed. Well, the courts beg to differ, and so does Miss Brandy Wright. But seeing as True Freeman claims to know the law, I challenge him to go to court, take his YouTube videos, and weigh that in evidence against Mrs. Wright's deed to the home, and see what the courts say. Well, I guess that's going to be it for now. That is another L in the column for Mr. True Freeman. That is definitely another L. And next week we have pretrial, where we will work on getting him another L. 2023 just not looking good for you, is it, Tyra? Not looking good at all. And I can guarantee you there is definitely more to come. But for now, every second you are allowed to breathe is considered a mercy. Words said by the great late Black Panther. Remember them well, Tyra. Remember them well.